you already are the oldest president in history. I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
Age has always been a factor in politics. In 1984, many voters were concerned with Reagan's age. At 73, he was the oldest president in history. Fast forward to today, Joe Biden, now 80, has surpassed that record. He's not shying away from taking forceful positions, even making significant international visits like his recent one to Israel. Still, 77% of Americans feel that he's too old to effectively govern. Are they right, Brian?
Not too old, but I do worry about, does he have it still? You see him, turn to leave a speech and he doesn't know which direction he's going. I won't pick on him for tripping going up the stairs because I do that and I've done it all my life, so I'm not going to pick on the president for that. But he's got moments where he starts telling a story and then he just stops and says, oh, well, on to something else. And you say, okay, is he mentally all there? And that's my big issue with this, not his age.
See, I'm curious because what is at the heart of why people are so concerned about his age? Is it that he shuffles his feet? Is it that he seems to stammer a little bit? I mean, what is it? Is it that he's out of touch? People feel maybe he can't relate to me. He's an 80-year-old man.
I think we're raised with the proposition that as you get much older, and certainly older, over 75, all that sort of thing, that you're going to become less competent. It's built into us to believe that will be true. And so, and it may well be worth beginning to look at more closely as people get older, their ability to carry out certain tasks. I'm 87 years old. There's a whole bunch of things I couldn't do and shouldn't do. So there are changes that should come, but they should not come. The rule should not be an arbitrary age, right? But on the other hand, I don't think you can get away from the fact that as you get older, you're less competent at certain things.
Even the usual progressive voices at the New York Times and the Washington Post, John, have raised concerns about his age. They say Joe is feeble, Joe is not able to govern. But what's interesting is statistically, Americans are far less likely to be concerned about Trump's age, even though he's only 3 years younger than Joe Biden. So to me, that suggests that this isn't an issue with age or with ageism, but rather it sounds like Joe has a perception problem.
Well, we have to also take into account that the people around the president or any major political leader have to be concerned about their well-being, because we remember that in the final year of even Reagan's presidency, he was battling with the onset of Alzheimer's. I mean, it was a situation where you do have somebody with the nuclear codes, and nobody is going to step forward and sort of say, Mr. President, it's time to leave the office, because again, you have to administer some kind of test in order to do that. And that in itself becomes a political process. Look, half of the people in the United States are going to be voting, saying with their voice that the current president, being a Democrat, is not competent for the job, and we know they're Republicans. The other half, in fact, have to be listened to, of which there may be a quarter already that say he may be too old, but I don't see a huge movement to get him out and replace him with somebody else, not even the vice president as she is currently in the chair.
How about Reagan's retort, Rudy, where Reagan says experience matters and experience comes with age?
Well, he was definitely an actor, right? And in the age of show business, here was a guy who looked like a president. And but it brings up a good point. When I look at Biden, because of the way he physically moves, I'm concerned for his health. And yet, in terms of what he's accomplishing in a very difficult time, I think is quite remarkable. I mean, he's actually dealing with a couple of many world crises, and he seems to be navigating it. And yet, because of the power of television to just focus on the most superficial, we constantly, or the public constantly, focuses on his age. Again, physically, it concerns me because he looks like he's having some issues. But lo and behold, he seems to be delivering some pretty good policy at the same time.
Justin Trudeau, meanwhile, is 51 years old, and he's not handling these international crises in a very good way at all. In fact, he's making things worse. He has, strained our relationship with China, with India. We were left out of the call on Israel with the United States and our other allies because Trudeau at 51 isn't seen as up to the task. So it's again, not a matter of age. It's a matter of, are you competent? I do have some concerns about Biden's mental capacity, just given the speeches, but I'll agree with Rudy. There are several big files that he's working on and making good progress.
Now, we're short on time, but I do want to squeeze this in, David, because we've been talking a lot about age in politics. But does it depend on what it is? Take physicians, for example. Should there be a mandatory retirement? This is a recurring debate. Should there be an age for doctors, for example?
Well, I think there it's a little easier if you're talking about professional competence. It's a little easier to administer programs that can indicate whether or not you're competent. Whether you're competent as a politician is certainly different than if you're a doctor, particularly if you're a surgeon. Is
that because of the stakes?
Yeah, but also you can also test. There are tests you can show whether or not you're still competent, and I think that it's easier and possible and easier to administer tests of competence. Age is not a test of competence. It is an indication of what you might want to worry about or think about, but it is not a test.
It's a good segue to our next discussion, so don't go away. We'll be right back.